recovering from surgery, foot up, wondering how much fitness I'm losing. What does the science say? What does it take to get it back? Well, we probably should look at the big kickers. VO2 Max, aerobic endurance, performance. Maximum oxygen uptake, or VO2 Max, is the amount of oxygen your body can use, your whole body, at a cellular level. It represents the maximum ability of your cardiorespiratory system, and it's been considered one of the hallmarks of endurance performance. And what about aerobic endurance? Well, it's the capacity to work at a high percentage of your VO2 max. What's been discovered about the decline in VO2 max after we stop training is it seems to be in two key stages. So the first stage seems to last between 3 to 4 weeks. Quite a reduction in VO2 max. In fact, it's down to 8 or 9% drop. And most of these seems to be as a consequence of what we call central adaptations. Primarily, it appears to be a reduction in blood volume or blood plasma volume. Secondary to this seems to result in a reduction of cardiac output. So the amount of blood that your heart outputs in each beat, the body seems to compensate just a little bit over this period by increasing heart rate as well for the same workload. So what we have is a reduction in VO2 max, blood volume reduces a bit, which means less gets pumped out by the heart. To help compensate for that, the heart beats a bit faster, but we do find it harder to maintain our level. So if we're going to run at a set speed, such as 5-minute Ks per hour, it will be at a relative higher percentage of VO2 max. So therefore we are actually working harder to maintain the same pace. After the 3 to 4 weeks, the reduction in VO2 max continues. So 12 to 15% reduction in VO2 max is big. It makes a big difference. Beyond these 3 to 4 weeks, it appears to be that the changes are happening at the muscle themselves, what we call peripheral adaptations. And this peripheral cause of the second stage in the drop of VO2 max is also very related to what changes the aerobic endurance. Now, your keen observers in this last graph will notice the purple line, or arteriovenous difference of oxygen. And what this is used to represent is the amount of oxygen that your muscles use from your blood. The bigger the difference, the more your muscles are able to use oxygen. And you will notice that after around the 3 to 4 week mark, it begins to decline, and there's not that much difference earlier. This is significant. This is changes in your muscle that are affecting your endurance performance. One of the big components of aerobic endurance is the muscle's ability to use the fuel sources efficiently and effectively. We know that good and long-term aerobic training enhances the ability to use fats as a fuel, also increase the efficiency of using carbohydrates or the muscle glycogen. When we stop training is that there is a big shift in the muscle's ability to use its fuel sources. It is no longer as good at burning fat for fuel. So as a result, it is forced to use more energy from its carbohydrate stores to maintain the same effort. That alone will reduce our performance. But how quickly do we lose this ability? Well, really fast. In fact, within 2 weeks, we have such a substantial drop in the ability of our aerobic endurance that it's as much to make anyone want to get out of bed and run. For your muscles to work, they need energy. There's different ways of getting it. They all involve chemical processes. You need enzymes. Measuring these enzymes give us a good idea of exactly how efficient and how much our muscles can use oxygen, energy. There's a few enzymes, and most of them follow a very similar trend. The most measured, and the one that we'll use to demonstrate this, is citrate synthase. It plays a big role in aerobic production of energy. So I'll throw out this graph, and what we see is quite a substantial decline. Over the first 3 weeks, the decline is quick. So around 3 to 4 weeks, we've lost about 20% of this enzyme activity. Out to 8 weeks, that doubles. So down, we lose 40% of citrate synthase activity. This plays a big role in the reduction of aerobic endurance. The data seems to suggest that after 8 weeks, it plateaus out and it stays there. The good news for the trained athlete is even with a 40% drop of citrate synthase activity after 8 weeks, you are still about 50% better off than the untrained person. There's some more good news for the trained athlete too. All the structure that we've built in terms of increased mitochondria, increased capillaries, all that remains unchanged. So we maintain our capillary density and our mitochondrial density. What we do is we reduce what goes around that. So the body makes some changes with the enzymes and the chemical processes in terms of how efficiently we can use that structure, but the structure stays there. So we don't have to rebuild that, and that's a good thing. What we need to do is retrain the body to come back and make the most of the structure or the architecture that we've already built from all those years, months, weeks of hard work that we've been doing before we were forced to stop training. How do we get back to training, or how do we eliminate or reduce the detraining effect? Firstly, let's look at the first 3 to 4 weeks of detraining. Because they're predominantly central and related to blood volume and cardiac output, these biggest changes, you can actually train them by not doing your usual activities. So if you're a runner, you don't have to run to stress them. You might be in a situation where you can do something else that increases your work effort, that raises the heart rate, gets you breathing hard. So this could be anything from swimming, cycling, deep water running, using a rower, an elliptical machine, anything like that, that gets your heart rate going, gets you breathing hard, will make a difference. You will probably be able to closely maintain your VO2 max at least up to 3 weeks. But what if I can't do the same volume? What if I can't train as much for whatever reason? You need to be able to keep the intensity high. And for how much? Well, reduction in volume of about 1/3 to 2/3 can maintain most performance values at least out for a few weeks. Now, the unfortunate news if your training goes out beyond the 4 weeks is you will definitely lose fitness. So what do we have to do? We have to accept it. We have to understand that we are going to lose fitness, and we need to know what it takes to get back. How long does it take to regain that fitness? But science suggests 4 weeks for every 1 week of training lost. That's right, 4 weeks for every 1 week of training lost. But science isn't real world. Science can't control all the variables, and most of us, if we're detraining, doesn't mean that we've completely stopped all activity. And that might be a good thing. That might help us reduce the actual detraining. So, if we're able to do some other things, if we're able to modify our exercise, if we're able to reduce the loss on VO2 max by doing other activities and keeping the central adaptations going, we might be in a much better state to regain our fitness afterwards. Maybe not the most exciting vlog in terms of video footage and imagery, but pretty limited here, being bedbound for the few days post-surgery. So I plan on putting all this information into action when I have my return to fitness after I get past the recovery requirements of my surgery. If you want to follow along, subscribe, keep up. I'd love to hear from you. Let me know what you think. And any questions, ask away and I'll do my best to answer. Keep on running.